I have in my hand the Nokia E90, the latest in a long line of communicator-style business phones from Nokia. It's plain to see that this is a monster of a device, larger than most any other smartphone on the market, and it weighs over 200 grams. The fully functional external display presents the standard Nokia E60 user interface in the same kind of way that one would expect to find on any other Nokia smartphone. The alphanumeric keypad on the exterior of the E90 is also top-notch, and the D-pad that sits above it also works pretty well. The back of the E90 is pretty plain and doesn't really have much to look at except for the autofocus camera's lens and the flash and the removable battery cover. On the bottom of the device we have a mini USB port, the headset and power ports, as well as a rather solidly designed micro SD port, spring-loaded hinge and everything. On the side we have a voice dial, voice recorder button, and a rather typical dual-stage shutter button for the camera. These two big metal slabs on the side are what allows the E90 to open up into the normal communicator form factor. Once opened up, the meat of the E90 is clearly visible. You get a very large and fully featured QWERTY keyboard that's matched up with a super wide display. The display is great for a lot of different mobile office kind of tasks. Along the top row of the keyboard is a row of quick access application keys that let you quickly pull up the most common S60 apps. At the very edge here is the S60 menu button itself, which allows you to pull up the main menu, go back to the standby, or put a running application into the background. So you can see the keyboard has all the normal layouts, everything's in the right place, punctuation points included, very similar to that you would see on a laptop computer. While the keyboard has a great layout, the keys themselves are a bit difficult to use. They're rather stiff and they take a lot of getting used to. The D-pad controller, on the other hand, is just plain bad. It's very difficult to use, and you're never really going to get used to its shortcomings. It's one of the biggest problems with the device on a whole. You can see that the cleverly designed hinge on the E90 allows it to be opened up into a number of different positions. It can be opened up flat like this. It'll click into a spot, like a normal laptop configuration, almost at a 90-degree angle, and it is willing to rest in just about any position in between, whatever you find comfortable. Up here at the right edge of the display is where you find the two soft keys that would normally be found underneath the display. This is a bit of a problem because when you're holding the device and typing and using the D-pad, it's a pretty big stretch to get up to the two different soft keys, especially since the top soft key is the primary one. Luckily, most of the time the D-pad center select key will act as the right-hand soft key. The problem is it's not consistent. You need to use the soft key fairly often when you're logging into websites or something like that. Instead of just being able to type a username or a password and hitting the rather large and convenient enter key, you have to hit the soft key up on the top. On the left-hand side of the display, you've got the regular green and red call control keys, along with a secondary camera that's used for video calling. This is a 3G device, but it only works on 2100 MHz networks such as those found in Europe. One of the things that Nokia did a really good job with when putting S60 onto a device like the E90 is that applications can run on either display, and they can actually switch back and forth rather seamlessly. Right now we've got the Nokia Maps application running on the large display. If I close the device, the same application in the same spot pops up on the exterior display. The opposite also is true. It makes it pretty easy to move back and forth, and when you're on a phone call, opening up the clamshell to expose the keypad and the keyboard in the large display, it automatically activates the speakerphone, which is pretty handy. Here's a quick demo of the S60 browser as it works on the E90. Just have the bookmarks right here. We pick a bookmark, pick an access point. In this case I'm going to pick the local Wi-Fi router. Connects pretty quickly, starts loading the page. The important thing to note is that it's loading the page in exactly the same way it would look on a regular PC. Has full support for JavaScript and cascading style sheets, all that kind of stuff. Not as fast as a desktop PC, but to get the real experience on it. You can see we use the D-pad to control the cursor. It's not as convenient as a mouse, but it works. One of the cool features is the visual back function. You can see when I hit the bottom soft key here, you can visually go through the previous pages and then select one that way. A screen this wide requires an awful lot of vertical scrolling, but the experience is pretty real. So while the E90 is a very solidly built device, it has some issues. I mean, in spite of the fact that it has a very good 3.2 megapixel autofocus camera, built-in GPS navigation, MP3 player, that kind of stuff, for its primary tasks, which are email and presumably web browsing, it's a bit of a mixed bag. Email works pretty good because of the display, but the same form factor of the display, the really wide look to it, makes a lot of scrolling required for any kind of serious web browsing, which is a bit of a pain. But in general, I mean, compromises are worth it. You can really do an awful lot with this device. It's just not going to be the most convenient device to use in many applications.